The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain. And after he sat down, his disciples came to him. He began to teach them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are they who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you, and utter every kind of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Thus they persecuted the prophets who were before you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Please be seated. Dan's sister Karen chose the Beatitudes as our Gospel reading for today. I think it's a beautiful and appropriate message for this funeral mass. The word beatitude comes from the Latin beatitudo, meaning perfect blessedness and happiness. Today's society, we think of happiness as some glowing dream, some idealized fantasy. And so many people have this unrealistic expectation of life. However, the Sermon on the Mount describes something very different. Jesus tells us like it is. He acknowledges the reality of the trials and difficulties of this life. Poverty, tears, hunger, thirst. With the passing of Dan, this reality hits us today. Life brings us times of darkness and uncertainty. So often we don't know why they come, nor do we fully grasp their meaning. And so we find ourselves in a desert, parched, thirsting for something, someone to hear us and to help us. So when things go wrong, we're called to turn to God, to trust in Him, even when we don't fully understand. And this, Jesus tells us, is how each of us can find God, the source of happiness, in the midst of our difficulties. And so he says, "Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven." I think very few among us know the torment of extreme hunger, and fewer still, I suspect, the torment of intense thirst. But we, all of us, who have suffered, who have tasted the cup of bitterness, testify to the fact that the torment of thirst can be the worst suffering that we experience. isn't a reason to despair. No. We're not in this alone. The Lord hears us and is there for us in these times of thirst. As the psalmist tells us, the Lord leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. In the second reading from the book of Revelation, we hear God's promise to the thirsty. Give a gift from the spring of life-giving water. But we don't have to wait until heaven to taste this reward, to quench our thirst, to experience true and real happiness. We can begin to do so here and now. And from all accounts, Dan did just that. Thirsting for the Lord, Dan found his happiness in making others happy. A generous soul, he delighted in giving. Through his friendships, through his cooking, the theater, and above all, through his teaching and mentoring of his students. Helping them to be happy by helping his students to recognize and to cultivate their God-given gifts. Our God, then, isn't someone who stands afar off, looking upon his people with indifference. No. As we hear from the book of Revelation, God's dwelling is with the human race. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. God himself will always be with them. It is clear then that God the Father created each one of us so that we might be with him always. From the beginning, this is his plan for each one of us. This is his plan for Dan. Today, we give thanks to God for the life of Daniel and Edward Kryston. And with confidence and hope, we pray for our Lord, commending his soul to God's merciful love. As Christians, we believe that the faithful shall abide with God in love, and each one of us will be raised up in the last day. So this is our heartfelt prayer for Dan, that his thirst for God will be finally and eternally satisfied at the heavenly banquet. And so in this Mass, we pray for him and for each one of us, that we may be truly happy in this life and in the life to come. That one day we will all be raised up, happily reunited in new heaven and new earth, where there shall be no more